What if some of the greatest opportunities, experiences, and relationships were things that your soul actually planned before you were born? And what if the reason they haven't arrived yet isn't about worthiness, but simply about things that are blocking you from receiving them? Welcome to Feel the Love from Above. I'm Linda Dolan, an Akashic Record practitioner and author, and today we're going to be talking about an aspect of soul planning that people rarely talk about. Many people are comfortable with the idea that our soul does plan for things before we come here, and what they mostly talk about are the challenges, because those are the things that help us evolve and grow and develop mastery. But what the Akashic Records has shown me is that we also plan for good stuff and things that I'm going to be calling gifts and blessings throughout the video today. These are wonderful things. They're experiences and people that bring us love and joy and support into our lives. Things that help us thrive, not just survive. I believe they're designed to help us enjoy life, even cherish our time that we spend here on earth. And often, what gets in our way of receiving them isn't at all obvious. It could be a belief, a fear, a story we're telling ourselves that is not even true. But the moment we begin to see it, which is having consciousness of it, we create space for something new, something better. And those very things that we desire and are meant for us to receive. You can tell, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. What really gets in our way? I asked for some guidance and I received my answer in the form of this short story. There was once a woman named Mary who crossed to the other side, and she was greeted by an angel who offered to show her around heaven. And everything there shimmered with light and love. And as they were walking, they came to a sign with an arrow that said, "The Palace of Possibility and Potential." So Mary asked the angel, "Well, what is that?" And the angel smiled and said, "Well, it's a place that holds all the gifts that souls planned to receive while they were on earth." Well, Mary was extremely excited and she ran ahead to the door and found a room with her name on it and walked in. And what she saw really surprised her. It was filled with wonderful things like a house in the neighborhood she really wanted to live in and a job that was helping to tend to animals. And the longer she was in the room, her excitement changed to confusion. So she asked the angel, "Are these the things I'm going to experience now?" The angel shook her head. "No, these are the gifts that you had planned to experience on earth, but you weren't able to fully receive them." Mary was stunned. She said, "Why wouldn't I receive these? I don't understand." And the angel smiled and said, "That's the question. You're about to meet God, so you can ask that question yourself." And that's the $1,000,000 question today that we're talking about. Why didn't Mary receive those gifts? And why don't we? And why do we sometimes settle for less? From what I've seen, there's 5 things that get in our way, and I'm just going to call them blocks for the rest of the video. And honestly, we've probably experienced all of them at some time in our life. The first block we're going to talk about is fear. Fear of failure, fear of messing it up, fear of what are other people going to think about us. And this is not loud panic attack kind of fear. This is quiet fear that just kind of runs beneath a lot of our choices. And it can sound like this: what if I fail? What if I make a really terrible mistake? What if I'm not ready? It's quiet and it sounds like this. What if I can't do it? What if I make a mistake? What if I mess it all up? It's the woman who doesn't apply for the job she really, really wants, or the child who doesn't try out for the team, even though his friends are doing it and he wants to. Because putting ourselves out there is taking a risk, and we feel vulnerable when we take risks. It's really a human thing to want to protect us from vulnerability. So we stay with what's familiar, even though it's not really the greatest thing. Often, that very fear that you are trying to protect yourself from is also the path to leading a lifetime of joy, receiving those gifts that your soul truly wants you to experience. Block number 2 is limiting and false beliefs. These are the painful stories that we tell ourselves that are not even true. Things like, I'm not good enough, smart enough, thin enough, you can fill in the blank, or I don't deserve these things. These are the painful stories that we tell ourselves that are not true, but we think that they are. And they're things like, I'm not good enough, smart enough, thin enough, you can fill in the blank on that one. I don't deserve love, I have to earn it. Other people are way more capable than I am. I'm too much. I'm not ready. Things like that. These beliefs shape how we see ourselves, and what we tell ourselves limits our choices in a lot of ways. Here's a good example. I worked with a woman whose fiance called off their wedding, and the story she was telling herself was, if he doesn't love me, no one's ever going to. I mean, what a horrible thing to say to yourself, right? And she would have never said that to a friend. But these are things that we easily come up with to try and make sense of what happened. That belief was very, very real to her. But through energy work and the Akashic Records, she was able to change that and tell herself the truth, which was that relationship had a lot of flaws, was not healthy, and not really what she wanted. I saw her a year later, and her story changed to, I really dodged a bullet. I'm so much happier. Please know, if you don't believe in yourself, it's really hard to believe that you deserve good things in your life. And the good news is, these beliefs can be changed. They can be addressed and healed. And I've seen it happen over and over again. Okay, block number 3 is not giving yourself permission to receive the good stuff. You know, most of us are really comfortable giving because it feels good to be the go-to person for a while, until we start to wonder, well, when is it my turn? Why am I not getting that support back? Often it's just because it feels unfamiliar and you haven't had a lot of practice at it. And maybe somebody even told you that giving is better than receiving, but that is absolutely positively not true, because it's about balance. You want to be giving and receiving in relationships in equal amounts. When you say no to receiving, you unintentionally block what's trying to find you. But the good news is, receiving is a skill. It's something you can absolutely positively learn. When you practice and take baby steps in real life action, like when somebody gives you a compliment, rather than saying, oh, this old thing, or whatever, you just say, thank you. Or if somebody offers you assistance, you say, yes, please. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to do that, but I will assure you that once you do it, it does get easier, and then it becomes more natural. Okay, block number 4 are patterns that keep you stuck. And I'm going to use perfectionism as my example because it's one that I personally have seen many people struggle with and overcome. It can look like overthinking instead of stepping forward, and that stalling prevents you from getting what it is that you want. It sounds like, I just got to get this right. And what will people think of me if I don't? If I can't do it perfectly, why even bother? I need to be prepared. I'm not ready just yet. So we wait, believing that we can get it exactly right, which of course we can't. And in the same token, we delay what could be unfolding for us. Perfectionism often creates all or nothing thinking, like, if I can't do it right, why bother? And these patterns feel perfectly normal. I'm just going to give you one quick example from a client I met with last January. She was exhausted because for the couple months leading up to the holidays, she searched for the perfect gift. She made the perfect food. She created a beautiful house full of perfect decorations. She totally wore herself out. So by the time the days actually came, she didn't experience the holidays at all. And she didn't really feel appreciated either. It's funny how that works, right? I just asked her to try something for 1 week, which was to do one little thing of her choice imperfectly. So the following week she told me it was torture, but she did it. And that's what change requires. A willingness to do something, to take a little baby step and just notice what happens. She is changing, but it's not been easy. Her goal for next holiday season is to relax, to enjoy the time with her family, and to order in the food. These patterns like people-pleasing, perfectionism, doubting ourselves, overthinking things, they just quietly keep us stuck and block what's trying to come in. The shift will begin when you can name what this pattern is and begin to take real-life action to change it. Block number 5 is not knowing what you really and truly want. Sometimes we say we want something more, something different, something better, but we don't really have a firm idea of what that could look like. That matters because it's really hard to receive something you haven't been able to imagine. Often it's easier to know what we don't want. People can tell me right away what they don't want. For an example, a job. I don't like being micromanaged, and I don't like the culture here. It's toxic. So that's a really good place to start because you can flip those around to know what you do want. I want an empowered environment. I want a culture that's supportive and kind and cooperative. It's a perfect place to start as you're trying to figure out what you want. And sometimes it's also guided by timing. Here's what happened to me in 1995. I was an addictions counselor and I was worn out, burned out, exhausted. So I took a sick day and stayed home. And for the first time, I watched the Oprah Winfrey Show. And she had a guest on that day. His name was Arnold Patton, and he wrote a book called You Can Have It All. So I almost turned it off because I thought, you can have it all? That doesn't even sound possible. That doesn't sound right at all to me. But I stayed put, and my mind began to open the longer I heard him talk. And he asked us all to write down what we wanted. So I took out a piece of paper, and on that paper I wrote, I want a new job. Well, I did not have consciousness that I wanted a new job. I just felt really stuck. And that surprised me because I loved that job for a very long time, but my circumstances had changed. Now I had young children, and working nights and weekends just wasn't working for me. So I stayed home the next day, and I found what looked like a perfect job in the want ads, which in the olden days, that's where you found the job. Long story short, within 5 weeks, I was starting that new job. And I know that staying home that day and finding that job was not at all random. This situation was absolutely a gift. And that career change served me really well for the next 20 years. So just know those desires that you allow yourself to feel are not random. They're clues. Let me just ask you for a moment. Think about, what is it that you really want that maybe you haven't allowed yourself to know yet? And if you're not sure, start with the things that you don't want so that you can know. What if, when it's your turn to visit the palace of possibility and potential, when you walk into your room, it's empty? Because everything that was in that room you actually received and experienced in this lifetime. I think it's absolutely possible. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And until I see you next time, please remember that you are not alone. You have a team of dedicated divine helpers, angels, guides that are very motivated to help you. And oftentimes, they're just waiting for you to ask.